Hey everybody, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we've got a little bit different style of video in that we don't really have any audio for this one. This is just going to be a short discussion of some mixing philosophies that you can apply to your mixing, no matter what style of music you mix or no matter what tools you use. And these are Andy Wallace's mix philosophies. And one of the reasons why we're covering Andy Wallace in particular is because he's known to use a minimal amount of outboard gear to create his mixes. So Andy Wallace mix philosophy number one is what I call the channel strip mixing philosophy. That is using one tool for almost all of your processing. In his case, he's using analog hardware, the SSL 4000G series console. You can get a 4000G plugin, of course, and use it on every track of the mix and do all your basic processing, EQ, compression, gating, with one single plugin. It's got it all in there. You've got your filtering, you've got your compression, gating, expansion, you've got a pretty fully featured EQ section, and using just those basic tools, those are the basic mixing tools anyway, right? EQ and compression, we can really craft a really good solid mix. The only outboard gear that Andy Wallace would use are a couple of reverbs and occasionally a compressor, maybe a mix bus compressor or an LA2A or something like that on a vocal, sometimes, not all the time. But most compression he's getting done with the channel compression on the SSL console. So there it is, mix philosophy number one, what I call the channel strip mix philosophy. Stick with one channel strip or one tool and use it on every track of the mix. A couple of benefits of that are you're going to work faster and get your mixes done faster, and you'll learn your tools a little bit better. We're kind of spoiled with the amount of choices we have, and if you stick to one most of the time, you're going to get most of the work done you need really fast. Andy Wallace mix philosophy number two has to do with monitoring, and it's going to be to monitor at really quiet levels, like whisper quiet levels. And Andy Wallace claims that this allows him to fine-tune balances and really focus on details. And try it on your next mix. You'll be really surprised how different the mix sounds when you turn that volume down a lot, what elements poke out more than others. When you crank it, it sounds great, and you do want to check it loud every once in a while, but for most of the work you're doing, try to keep it down at a really conservative level, one that you could easily talk over. Another benefit of doing that is you'll get less fatigued. You'll be able to mix longer stretches of time without taking breaks because you are listening at that quiet level. And the third and final Andy Wallace mix philosophy that I want to talk about is automation. Automate everything. Andy Wallace takes advantage of the automatable SSL desk and automates every fader, including the master fader. He's known to push up choruses on that master fader to get them a little bit louder. We call that the slippery fader trick. But automating everything on every channel. Now, admittedly, this is a little bit easier on a real console than it is in a DAW because you have access to all the faders at once and can automate multiple things at the same time. So automating one thing at a time in your DAW is a little bit tedious, but it's really the secret weapon to a lot of mixers. And what makes it challenging is, number one, it takes a lot of time, and number two, it takes a lot of practice to get it really, really good. Do those automation passes and get exactly what you're looking for. The great news for us in the DAW is we can just do it over and over again, rewrite that automation, and really fine-tune those balances, because mixing basically comes down to balance. You're balancing things out. When you're using your faders, of course, you're balancing. When you're using EQ, you're balancing within the frequency spectrum of the source signal. When you're using compression, you're creating a better balance by having less dynamic range. So many of our mixing things are balanced. And that fader is a great way to balance. It's a human compressor. You're controlling the dynamic range by using each fader. So there we have it. Three really basic mixing philosophies courtesy of Andy Wallace. Number one, use little to no outboard gear, or if you're in the plugin world, use one or two plugins, and that's about it. A channel strip across every channel of your mix. Number two, monitor really soft, really quiet monitoring so you can really hone in on those details. And number three, automate everything. Take advantage of your automation, and that's going to really help you craft the mix. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next, and I'll see you in the next one.